Fed Cup is the premier international team competition in women's tennis. Launched in 1963 to celebrate the 50th anniversary of the International Tennis Federation, the competition was known as the Federation Cup until 1995. The Fed Cup is the world's largest annual women's international team sports competition, in terms of the number of nations that compete. The men's equivalent of the Fed Cup is the Davis Cup. Australia, Czech Republic and the United States are the only countries that have held both the Fed Cup and Davis Cup at the same time. History. Dating back to 1919, Hazel Hotchkiss Whiteman came up with the idea for a women's team tennis competition. Although rejected, she went ahead and presented a trophy at the 1923 annual contest between the United States and Great Britain, named the Whiteman Cup. Nell Hopman, wife of the legendary Australian Davis Cup captain Harry Hopman, later took up Mrs. Whiteman's original idea. However, it was in 1962, when a British resident of the United States, Mary Hardwick Hare, presented a dossier proving that support for such an event was overwhelming, persuading the ITF that it was a good idea to have a team championship played over 1 week in a different venue each year. 40 years after Whiteman's idea of a women's Davis Cup, it became a reality. In 1963, the ITF launched the Federation Cup to celebrate its 35th anniversary. Open to all nations, the competition became a resounding success. The inaugural event attracted 16 countries. The competition was supported by the top players right from the start. Held at the Queen's Club in London, the first contest was between Australia and the United States. Grand Slam champions Darlene Hard, Billie Jean King, Margaret Smith and Leslie Turner all proudly representing the country on court. The United States would emerge the champion nation in the opening year, however it was to be Australia in the early years, winning 7 of the next 11 championships. Around 1980, the United States was able to establish some significant mark on the competition, setting in future years a very high standard for others to compete against. The first Federation Cup had attracted 16 entry teams, despite no prize money and teams having to meet their own expenses. When sponsorship became available, the number of teams expanded dramatically, first by the Colgate Group in 1976 and, from 1981 to 1994, by the Japanese communications and computer giant NEC. In 1994, there were 73 nations competing, with the host nation of a Federation Cup week was now being required to build a special tennis complex, giving rise to what became known as the Federation Cup legacy. The additional costs of each event could be offset, with the host nations viewing their involvement as providing an opportunity to boost their national game. Regional qualifying competitions emerged in time for the 1992 and, in 1995, the Federation Cup used a new format and shortened its name to the Fed Cup. The home and away format trialed by the Davis Cup was adopted for the Fed Cup so that women could play for the country in their own country. There have been a number of smaller changes to the format since 1995. The current format, introduced in 2005, incorporates an 8-nation World Group 1 and 8-nation World Group 2, both playing home and away over 3 weekends throughout the year. 3 regional groups compete and there are promotions and demotions based on results. Format. Tournament. While many nations enter the Fed Cup each year, only 16 countries qualify for the Elite World Group and World Group 2 each year. They reach World Group and World Group 2 as follows. World Group. The 4 nations that win the World Group first round tie remain in the World Group for the following year. First round losers contest the World Group playoffs against the 4 winning nations from World Group 2 to determine relegation, promotion for the following year's competition. World Group 2, the 4 nations that win the World Group 2 ties will compete in the World Group 1 playoffs to determine relegation, promotion for the following year, is described above. Similarly, the 4 nations that lose the World Group 2 ties will face winning nations from Group 1 zonal competitions in the World Group 2 playoffs to determine relegation, promotion. Once in the World Group or World Group 2, 4 nations will be seeded in each. The decision as to which nations will be seeded is made by the Fed Cup Committee according to the ITF Fed Cup Nations ranking. At the levels below the World Group and World Group 2, the Fed Cup nations compete in zonal competition events, which are split into 3 zones: the Americas zone, the Asia-Oceania zone and the Europe-Africa zone. In each zone there are 2 groups, Group 1 being the higher and Group 2 to the lower, except for the Europe-Africa zone, which also has a Group 3. Within the group zonal regions, teams are split into pools and play against each other in a round-robin format. The exact format of each group event, and promotion and relegation between them, varies according to the number of participating teams. 2 teams are always promoted from Europe-Africa Group 1 to that year's World Group 2 playoffs, while 1 team each go to the World Group 2 playoffs from America's Group 1 and Asia-Oceania Zone Group 1. Current structure. This structure has been implemented since 2016. Ties. In World Group and World Group 2, and World Group and World Group 2 playoff ties, each tie is contested in a best-of-5 matches format, and is played across 2 days. On the first day there are 2 singles matches, and then the reverse singles matches take place on the following day. The final match is a doubles. In zonal groups I, 2 and 3, ties are played over the best-of-3 matches. The first round ties in the World Group and World Group 2 are played on a home and away knockout basis, and take place over a weekend in the early part of the year. World Group semi-finals and final are played over on a home and away knockout basis, and take place over a weekend in July and September. Playoff ties for World Group and World Group 2 will also be played on a home and away knockout basis taking place in July. The choice of ground for first round, semi-finals and playoff ties is decided by lot. It goes automatically to one of the competing nations. His groups I, 2 and 3 are played in a round-robin format in all 3 zones. Each event takes place at a single venue over 1 week. These are held in the first half of the year, and dates and venues are decided by the Fed Cup Committee. Records and statistics. Performance by team. Team records consecutive titles all-time. 7. United States, 1976 to 1982. Consecutive finals appearances all-time. 8. Australia, 1973 to 1980. Most number of games in a tie all-time, 172. France 4-1 Japan, 1997 World Group first round. Years present in World Group. Individual records. Youngest player Denise Panagopoulou, Greece, 12 years, 360 days 1. Oldest player Jill Butterfield, Bermuda, 52 years, 162 days. Most rubbers played 100. Irancha Sanchez Vicario, Spain. Most ties played 74. Anne Kremer, Luxembourg. Most rubbers won total 72. Irancha Sanchez Vicario, Spain. Singles 50. Irancha Sanchez Vicario, Spain. Doubles 38. Larissa Neeland, Soviet Union, Latvia. Longest rubber 2016 World Group. Svetlana Kuznetsova against Ritual Hogenkamp, 4 hours, 6-7, 7-5, 8-10. 1. Players must now be aged 14 and over. Heart Award. It aims to recognize players who have represented the country with distinction, shown exceptional courage on court and demonstrated outstanding commitment to the team during Fed Cup by BNP Paribas. Current rankings.